Hey Swing Pros fans. So I want to run through what a productive practice session can and should look like. So getting myself through my process with every setup, my grip, trying to make sure that my alignment's in a good spot, trying to get to neutral as best I can so that I can start assessing what I need to work on for the day. Notice my trends, notice my ball flight, stuff like face path and smash factor. So based on this information, what I ended up doing for this practice session was working on my weight transfer. I didn't feel like I was doing a great job with my legs, particularly in my downswing. And so I spent a good amount of time just trying to warm up my legs and get comfortable with what that goal was going to entail. So to help me start trying to use my legs and more importantly pushing into the ground, into and out of the ground in both my backswing, transition, and my downswing, I got one of my favorite training aids, just basically a rocking board. Rock side to side, helps you feel when you shift correctly in your backswing, when you shift correctly in your downswing, your transition, and whether you fall backwards or you continue to push into and out of the ground with your lead leg as you're supposed to. Great way to feel stability. So I teed it up, as you can see, just to get myself more of an even playing field, as the board is about a half inch or so off the ground. So I experiment with a couple different tees. Right away, that first rep, I swayed instead of turned, went way too fast because of it. So I was able to catch myself and reassess. So a couple of practice swings just to kind of feel what I'm trying to do without having a ball there to distract me. Then I'll set in a ball and really just focus in on what I'm trying to get my body to achieve, which is push into the ground in the backswing, into the ground in the downswing with the lead leg, and finishing pretty balanced. As is true with most training aids and drills, your first couple might be a little bit tough, feel a little funky, might feel off balance just because it's so new as opposed to what you're used to doing. So don't let it deter you, but again, focus in on what you're trying to get your body to do. So I'm trying to be very diligent about where I set the ball with this. I don't want to just set it somewhere and then adjust how far I'm leaning to accommodate to that. I want to make sure that I'm being pretty precise about where I want to be set up. So with a lot of these, I am still rushing a little bit, but it's good practice. I got good reps and I stayed back. Next, after I've gotten kind of comfortable with what I'm trying to feel with that training aid, what I'm trying to get my body to achieve in order to get the training aid to work correctly, I'm going to move into a drill. So if we've seen you before, or we've worked with you for a while, I'm sure we've done this step drill before, but it's got a bunch of different uses. But here I'm really trying to focus in on my sequence, making sure I'm winding up really well, making sure that my foot is on the ground before my downswing starts. Just trying to slow down my transition so I know what muscles are firing and I can identify when they're the wrong muscles, when it starts becoming the arms or the shoulders. So this was a great practice session. Once I get to the end of feeling the drill a couple times, I'll do maybe 2 or 3 reps with that. Then I'm going to switch over into just normal swings. This was a practice session the next day. I will go over this here in a minute, but I started assessing a little bit and noticed that I had a couple of things with my setup that I was doing incorrectly later in this practice session. But again, I'm now matching up drills. I'm trying to see my shoulder plane, kind of trying to see my proprioceptive, or build my proprioceptive map for what I'm trying to do with my body and matching it with that step drill. When I did this versus what I had done the day before, I got much better results. Just slows me down. So this is where I erred in my practice the day before. And my setup, my belt line is pretty much dead flat, which means I'm just sitting on my hips. I'm not set up in an athletic position or in an advantageous position to be able to use my biggest muscles, my glutes and my hamstrings. See there, I can't actually turn my body properly. So what I decided I really needed to practice, the drills were great, they got me good reps, helped me learn new habits, but I just really spent 30 minutes making sure that I was setting my belt line, my pelvis, and my body correctly. So got myself in front of a mirror. You can use your cell phone on a tripod in mirror mode. We've got lots of tripods around if you need one, or just ask for the mirror. We can always move it around. But that way I could look back at the mirror while I set up, see what do I feel and what does that match to what I'm actually seeing. In golf, feel versus real, even for myself, can be very opposite of what we might think. So being able to actively see what's happening while I do it can show me where I'm going wrong, when I'm going wrong, and let my brain know, hey, this is the feel I'm looking for. So a lot of times people will come into Swing Pros to practice or go to the driving range, work on their driver, work on their irons, but not hit one putt, which is oftentimes 40% of your strokes out on the golf course. So I want to keep in mind at the end of every practice session, I want to do something that's going to cool me down and kind of simplify things a little bit. So I'll go over to the putting green, spend 10 minutes or so there, just trying to get some proper practice. So here I'm using 3 of my favorite putting training aids. The mirror there in the middle is my favorite golf training aid. I think everyone should have one. The yellow thing on the left is my swing plane, so I just rest the putter against it, turn my arms off. I feel like I'm just using my shoulders and chest. So I'll do that a couple times until I can identify what's moving and what's not. Then I'll step into the putting mirror where I can figure out my setup, where my eye line is, my proximity from the ball, and watch for one of my worst habits, my head moving as I start my backswing. So I'll be able to keep my eye on myself, and that third down there is kind of like a tunnel where I'm just trying to get my start line of my putt to be very predictable and straight. For me, that's when I putt the best, is I've got okay hand-eye coordination, so I can figure out my distance control pretty easy. But if the ball is not starting on line, then it doesn't always do me a whole lot of good. So that gives me a good way to monitor 3 of the most important aspects of my putting and do it really quickly.